So glad to have all of you here tonight. Thank you for your attendance.
On behalf of the Emergency Management Office, we welcome our guests tonight and welcome our commissioners. For our safety plan tonight, if we have to evacuate the courthouse tonight, and our ADA bathrooms are at the end of this hall, male and female on the left side. Thank you, Ms. Holden.
Thank you, Director Harrell. All right, now the clerk's office will call the roll. Okay, tell us how many are present, please. We've got 23 present, one. Please look over your agenda now. I want to make one addition, please. Will you vote on approval of the agenda? All right, show us the vote. All right, the agenda has been approved. Thank you. At this time, we're going to stand and have our prayer and pledge. Our prayer this evening will be led by
Lord, to bow our head just for a moment. Lord, we give you praise and honor for this day, Lord, that you've given each one of us. Lord, you've watched over and kept your hands upon us. Lord, we thank you for the very breath, Lord, that you give us to take. Lord, we do pray, Lord, for our country tonight, Lord. We pray, God, that you pray for each one, Lord, that takes part, Lord. God, tonight we do pray, Lord. The word says that my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray, seek their face and turn from heaven, Lord, that you will heal their land. Lord, tonight how this land needs to be healed, Lord. God, tonight we do pray, Lord, know that our strength only comes from you tonight, Lord. The one that sits on the right hand of the throne, making intercession for each one of us, Lord. Lord, tonight we thank you for your love, mercy, and grace, God, that you have upon each one of us. Lord, we know, Lord, that there's probably many sitting here tonight that have loved ones, Lord, that are sick in their families. God, we pray, Lord, your anointing upon them. And God, we do thank you for our officials. Lord, we thank you for our county officials, Lord, and each one of them, Lord, that you give them the wisdom and the knowledge, Lord. We pray for this commission board too, God. Lord, tonight we can never praise you enough for the prayers that you've answered, Lord, and the ones you're going to answer, for the miracles that you've worked in each one of our lives. God, we give you the praise and honor. We ask it in thy name. Amen.
Amen. Attention, salute, pledge. I
I'd like you to have 4 of us up here. You got 2 House and 2 Senate.
Gosh, we could, with all of us, we could do something tonight, couldn't we?
Working through the state. The first thing I'll say is Tennessee was just voted #1 physically in the nation. In the nation. Physically responsible. And that says a lot. #1, it's because of the conservatism that all these guys show and pass laws and bills that, we're doing a phenomenal job. And every month, we have a projected forecast and we exceed it by probably 20%. And it just keeps rolling in because the business and the people keep coming and they're generating that revenue. So, I mean, it's phenomenal what we got going. We just need to keep it up. You need to keep voting the right way. We've got a lot of people moving in. And I'd like to keep these philosophies that we've adopted in place because, as Reagan says, you're one generation away. So we're doing phenomenal and I want to keep it up. Now, the other thing that we've got going positive for this area, the Workforce Development Center, which got a $250 million grant for education. We've also got the prison, which we're turning into a drug rehab. And one of the main drivers that's caused that is sitting in the back. Every time I turn up, Patty Woodby's in Nashville. I mean, we met the governor 5, 6 times and really been working it hard, and the fruits are starting to come in now. So my hat's off to her. She's done a good job. And I'll turn it over to some of these guys. And
Scotty, go ahead and share this house first. Let the lower chamber go first.
To Tiger Valley. Very happy. The Bill Dance Signature Lake status for Watauga Lake is something that I was very excited to hear about. And the Department of Tourism, TWRA, and others are working together on the nuts and bolts of that, so to speak, and hope to get some additional details very soon. That's a unique distinction and something I was glad to see. Personally, I serve on the Finance, Ways and Means Committee in the House, as well as the Appropriations Subcommittee, Transportation and Criminal Justice. So rather full plate. But like you guys and your own committees, we have a major responsibility to the people. And I'll just simply say, if there's anything I can do for anybody here, feel free to reach out. Thank you very much.
the opportunity to serve you. So, Senator? Just retired as a captain in the Navy, and a great veteran. I think his last appointment was with the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and so he had a great honorable career. So we're proud of him. How many veterans we got in here? Raise your hand if you're a veteran. We're awfully proud of our veterans. Thanks, guys. Miss the America we grew up in. Things are a mess right now. It's not the Democrats that your mom and my mom knew. It's not the Republicans that your mom and my dad knew. These are people that are trying to change our country. They're socialists, they're cultural Marxists, and it's not a good thing. But you have told us what you want us to do down there, and we're doing it. We're going to keep Tennessee the state we know and love. We're going to make darn sure that we concentrate on lower taxes. And as John just said, I think we've got the lowest taxes per capita of any state. If not, we're number one or number two. We've done away with every tax you can think of. The income tax, the hall tax on investments. So people are moving in here because they don't have to pay on their retirement, like a double tax. The gift tax, the inheritance tax, the privilege tax, except for lawyers. All the taxes this year that we took off.
Let's see, and well, I don't know if I can remember.
When you go to get a car tag this year, you won't pay the $29 state on that. That'll be free.
We wiped out, I think, 3 professional privilege taxes. If you don't know what that is, we actually tax people with specific licenses. Lawyers, although there's a joke in there and I'm not going to go there.
Budget was balanced with no new taxes, and for years we've balanced it with no new debt. As you know, in Tennessee, we build roads, we pay as we go. We don't borrow money for that, and so we're really proud of our financial situation. So lower taxes, less government intervention. My gosh, let business do business. Don't put all this red tape in there for them. In Tennessee, we're letting business do business. So you've got lower taxes, less government intervention. Personal responsibility. We just, before we left Nashville, passed a bill to say, if you're getting welfare in Tennessee, you're going to either have to work or go to school or volunteer in one of our community organizations. One of those 3 to get those dollars. So we're putting responsibility back in there. So as of July, we have the best commissions in East Tennessee, Northeast Tennessee especially, in the state. And we see them all, trust me, we know. So we love you guys and we're there for you. I think what we did is we made sure that the dollars that are coming into that formula for our kids follow the needs of each child. And go directly to teachers instead of coming in and then, being dispersed and they tell us it's going to our teachers and it's not. So we want our kids to be getting those dollars as they need and our teachers to be held high as well, because we got the best teachers in Northeast.
That actually generated Carter County and Elizabeth a bunch more dollars this year. So it's a big benefit to us.
Millions of dollars. And then the 4 of us are really proud for the middle college program that I have to say, Patty got that started. I swear she's like a star. And you guys have been great in doing what you did with this workforce development project out here. I think that's going to be the best project in the state. These kids are going to be able to come in and walk across their stage with a high school diploma, and at the same time have that CTE degree when they walk across that stage, and they'll be able to, go to work that next Monday. John Thompson's here. John and I have to pay for a lot of this if they can make the grade and get in. And so we're really proud of that. One last thing, there were so many things they were great this year. It was a great year for Tennessee. Any of the working farms, if you have a working farm in here, then anything that you have to purchase for the production or maintenance of that farm is going to be tax-free starting January. Anything, your fencing, your labor. Housing properly for people that want to work and are needy families. Number two, to try to help them get off of government assistance. Number three is to help our single gals who are pregnant, try to figure that out. And then the last thing is the dollars are there to bring these families together, keep the family unit together. Because of you guys, we're able to do all this. You're the best, and we appreciate the team. So we're
It is before our planes, wasn't it?
Appreciate you, Senator, for your stance on education. You have been the one staunch person over the years that has
Yeah, any questions you guys have, we're happy to try to deal with them.
Any other commissioners? Ms. Brown?
I'd just like to say thank yous for everything yous have done for us. We really appreciate the hard work that yous have put forward. And I know that if I call yous, I'll get an answer back. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you.
We love you guys. You all are the best. Appreciate what you do. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
A fishing ramp. That project came out to be over $100,000 in time. TDOT probably did around 20,000. TWRA probably did around 35,000 in kind. TVA gave us 45,000 to pay for the pavement and stuff. And that really came in a big help because each one of those day, and that is pure tourism dollars going straight into this county. So that really helped. The Smalling Bridge, be good if we could put one underneath it and take a little pressure off. But before y'all leave, I wanted to thank you, and we appreciate the
Thanks again, gentlemen, for joining us tonight. Okay. This afternoon, Gwen from the clerk's office sent out a second copy of the my Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Kelly Collins. Second by Commissioner Robin McCamey. Is there any discussion? Yes, Travis Hill.
Two changes. At the top, Board of Commissioners, Commissioners is spelled wrong. And then item 2, it's Kevin Kemp instead of Kevin Kemp.
Commissioners had
Missing an S.
missing an S. Okay, does anybody else have anything? He said at the top. In the heading.
Two M's and two S's in commissioners. I don't know what's on the second draft.
Okay, all right. We'll get that taken care of, Vice Chairman Hill. Anything else? All right, let's vote on the approval of the June minutes. Okay, so the minutes have passed. Oh, Randall.
Somebody just texted me, they're watching online, they said they can't hear any sound.
Address 801 East Tokyo.
I don't know what to say, Randall, because up here it's showing that the room is on, the live stream is on. Everything that I can see appears to be correct, but if any one of you wants to come and look at this, I'll be glad to have you do that right now. Yes, Mr. Tester.
I was watching the budget meeting the other night and had the same problem. It would come in and go out, come in and go out. So, you know, it's something that is wrong. You've been here, right?
Okay, thank you, Randall. I don't.
A. Long, Mr. A. Carter, Vanessa R. Salmon, Sam J. Laporte, Leanna Bowman, Andrew Laporte, Marquita Peters, Teresa Woods, Robin C. Denny, Michelle Highchew, Teddy Miller.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Sandra Culler, second by Nancy Brown. Any discussion? All right, please vote on the approval of notaries and bonds. Jerry?
Mash the button.
Okay. Notaries and bonds are approved. Thank you. Public you very much. Anybody else? It's not.
Well, how about all right, thank you very
And, wet news.
Anybody else? Okay.
some
Anybody have a question for him? All right, Director Carpenter.
Thank
so
you.
much. Okay. The floor is yielded to Mayor Patty Woodby at this time.
Good afternoon, everyone. Of course, you've already heard some good news about Carter County tonight. I also wanted to share some more good news. As you know, we were approved for an ARC grant of $250,000, which the commission approved $114,000 matching funds, which takes that grant to a total of $364,000 that we will be using for the CTE programs at the county high schools. This is going to purchase new equipment for their welding, nursing, automotive collision, their criminal justice programs, and their business management programs, and what other future programs Dr. Carpenter plans to use it for. We wrote this grant back in March with the development district when the Appalachian Regional Commissioner Chairman, she reached out to me about this project that we're trying to do around a centralized CTE college. And so when she got wind of that, she did reach out to me, and we wrote the grant. Abby participated highly on that. She did push the information out. We done all the field work on it for the development district. We went to the workforce development, even measured classroom space in order, we had to present this grant in a packet. So I don't know if many of you know a lot about the Appalachian Regional Commission, but that's 13 states and 423 counties that it serves. Carter County got a grant from them. So that's very wonderful news. It's wonderful news for our education, and it's wonderful news for Dr. Carpenter and Carter County schools, because we're going to be able to provide up-to-date equipment to put our kids in the workforce to be competitive with the wages as soon as they graduate high school. So we're very excited about that. Another good tidbit of information I wanted to share. Since I took office in September of 2020, we have for a grand total of $1.1 million in grants since I've been in office. That also includes a $40 million investment from the TBR, Tennessee Board of Regents, to have the Carter County Career Center here in Carter County, which we've already discussed. And then we're currently working on a grant for Roger at the Highway Department for $569,000 with zero matching funds for the county. So there's a lot happening out of the mayor's office in partnership with many other leaders in the community. And so this is bringing everything back to this county. So I kind of wanted to share a little bit of that with you. Has anybody got any questions? Anytime we're bringing money into the county, it's always good news. And then I want to have Billy come up. He's going to talk to you a little bit about a recognition that our EMA has received. I'll let him share the information on that. We're really excited about.
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, I'm really excited about a resolution that Senator Crow has been working on for us. And I hate he left, but he has been working on an amateur radio resolution for us, the EMA office throughout the state. And I found out today that Carter County EOC, the Emergency Operations Center, and Jefferson County EOC, their emergency operations, we're the only two EMA offices this side of Knoxville with the capability that we have for communications now in amateur radio, which includes UHF, VHF, and DMR. So I've been working on this project since I took over as director, and been working. Rusty Crowe heard about us, and he did a resolution for the Emergency Management Office. And this is a copy that I'll have framed and put in the EOC, and I'd like to read it to you all. It says, by Senator Rusty Crowe and Representative Reedy, a resolution to honor Tennessee amateur radio operator. Whereas channeling the historic spirit of the volunteer state and the 19,800 licensed amateur radio operators who reside in Tennessee provide invaluable services to their fellow citizens during emergencies and natural disasters. And whereas numerous Tennessee amateur radio clubs, organizations, and groups promote and advocate for the role of technology in the art of radio communications. And whereas such worthy organizations provide a membership base through which new operators are trained, but locally in and through TEMA, which is Tennessee Emergency Management, and other emergency communications. And whereas these organizations And individual operators have developed a statewide infrastructure of communications, resources at their own expense, and generally made it available for emergency use. And whereas the members of the Amateur Radio Emergency Service devote their time, expertise, and equipment in support of local, state, and federal agencies during times of crisis. And whereas these amateur radio operators gladly provide their expertise without compensation in service of the greater good. And whereas this General Assembly wishes to recognize the many contributions made by Tennessee Amateur Radios, now therefore be it resolved by the state of 112th General Assembly of the state of Tennessee, the House of Representatives concurring that we honor and commend Tennessee's amateur radio and the EOC for supporting our state during emergency and natural disasters, and thank them for their emergency response capabilities and readiness. That was signed by Rusty Crowe, Scotty Campbell, Jay Reedy, and Governor Bill Lee. So that'll go in our EOC at Carter County. So I'm very proud of this. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. All right. Welcome to the floor now, our Director of Communications, Mark Ridings.
Good evening. Thank you. Look forward to reporting part of what I've done here this month and what we're looking at going forward. Of course, getting things set up. We're still lacking on a little test equipment, but we've been a little bit behind the eight ball on that because pulling information from some of the vendors has been a little bit slow. So I'm finally getting that going. We got information for that, and that's in the works. We've worked out a location for working on mobile bay work. So if I need to work inside, in out of the weather or something, we've got a location for that. And we can possibly stage the radios. Once we start ordering radios, we're going to be having 12 to 15 pallets of radios showing up. And it'll probably show up in different stages, but we'll have to find a location to put those temporarily as we stage them. And we're thinking about the Army Hills because it's a secure location. We can lock things up there. I've spoken with Matthew Gilbert of the Forest Service and taken a trip to White Rock Radio Site. That White Rock Radio Site is, the access to the site is pretty tough. If anybody's ever been up there, they know you got to have a pretty high setting four-wheel drive to gain access to it. That may mean that we may have to do some road work up there right at the top of the site. It's not going to be the whole access road. It's just about 100 yards of that road that it's literally got boulders 2 to 3 feet tall that you have to climb over to get up to the site. So we may have to do something there. I need to get with the highway department, see if there might be something we can do to gain access on that. Forestry Service has already said that they won't access or change the road at all because they do have vehicles that can get there, so they don't want to change the access. But they said we're welcome to if we want to gain access. We're also working on drawings. I have Scott Tidwell working on drawings for us, a packet of information for that site because we need information for the site that we can present to Matthew Gilbert. Matthew Gilbert's going to take that information to Service and ask for the approval to do the work. So we've got to get that approval because it is federal land and federal property up there. And then we'll have to work out a memorandum of understanding or some kind of arrangement and agreement in writing as well. And to who owns the site, who owns what, and where we go from there. So we're working on that right now, and these will be shared with Mr. Gilbert so he can get the permission. Logistics of building that site at that remote location is probably going to be a pretty good challenge for any tower crew. I have reached out to other tower crews. I'm not just going to go on Motorola's word on what they want to do. There's 3 or 4 different tower crews in the area that can access and do things like this. And more than likely, there's one or two tower crews that are going to be able to do something for us. I had one of them finally call me back today. I reached out to him about 2 weeks ago, and I've been trying to gain access to that. He called me today, and he's going to send me his information. As soon as I get the Forestry Service packet that we're going to send to him, I'm going to send a copy over to the tower crew as well. And then that way they'll be able to tell us and give us some kind of a quote as to how much it'll cost to build up that site up there. As a plan B, we're also looking at a possible alternate location. I'm not exactly sure where yet. Seeing some tower sites that will possibly be on one of the mountaintops that are very near to White Rock, but that's something that's in the works right now as well. So I've been reaching out to everybody and trying to pull some information on that one. So I wanted to share something about the radio system itself. The radio system is a P25 radio system. Basically what a P25 is, it's a set of standards put forth through APCO. APCO is the American Police Communications. It's an American Police Communications Board. And what they do is they come up with a set of standards so that we don't have a lot of mismatching radios. So you don't have one vendor trying to build something to keep everybody from talking on their radios. Somebody else built something that they can't talk to, so nobody can talk. So what APCO did was they stepped in back in the 90s and early 2000s and set forth the standard P25 standards. Those standards, all the radios that we're looking at are all standard on that P25 system. So all the radios we're looking at will work with that. I'm working with 3 radio vendors right now. Of course, we're working with the Motorola vendor for the portables, the mobiles, and all that information on those radios. It appears that choosing alternate vendors other than the Motorola vendors could quite substantially save us quite a bit of money. The other vendors have got really good radios, got good warranties with them, and we're not afraid to reach out to those vendors and see if we can't come up with something that's a lot more competitive. On the TACN system, Jay Malpass, he's one of the technicians for them. He's actually working with Wayne Farrow from Communications International. He's working on him to approve some Tate P25 radios to use on that TACN system. We also know that Tate has a sister company called Harris, some of you may be aware of. Harris radios are actually already approved on that system, so we're actually looking down that road and down that avenue for those radios, possibly go with the Harris radios. Kenwood radios, some of them are approved, but Kenwood, similar to Motorola, kind of does things their own way. But Viking is the sister company to Kenwood. The Viking radios actually are available on the TACN network, and they work with the Harris radios, the Motorola radios, anything that works on the radios network. So we're looking at the Viking radios as well. I did meet with Scott Tidwell Friday. He did inform me that the radio system here in the county is going to be simulcast. And basically what that means is it cuts down on the number of frequencies that we have to register in the county. If we had to register all the sites, we're looking at a minimum of about 12 frequencies here in the county to add to the list. Those are getting harder and harder to find. So what they did was they took a step back and looked at the simulcast option. Simulcast actually uses about 2 frequencies here in the county. And everything comes up and transmits all at exactly at the same time. So when you talk on a radio and you're down towards Johnson City or you're over in that area and you key a radio, they'll hear it in Roane and they'll hear it in all the locations in the county all at once. So it'll transmit over the whole county all at the same time. You won't have to switch channels when you get into a different area. You won't have to do this. It'll all be automated and automatic. So that's a benefit. And Scott Tidwell also said that he went back to Motorola and said, we're not adding any cost to this, period. So they're not adding any numbers. They were looking at that, and it was going to cost a little more to do the simulcast because there's a few more pieces of equipment that have to go in place. And Motorola is going to eat that one. So they're going to go with the simulcast option and not charge us any more for the simulcast option. He also informed me that he's been looking at some more competitive radio rates on the radio pricing. So he's trying to come down on his Motorola portables, mobiles, the base stations. So they're trying to come up with some really good options that are less expensive than we had. So that'll help bring our numbers down because he is aware that that's one of our challenges. I have preliminary cost figures from Land Air Communications on the Viking equipment, from Communications International. Also have some figures from them. I didn't get all the final figures yet. One of the reasons is some of the stuff I got in wasn't exactly the equipment that we're going to be using. I want to make sure that all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted. So I want to make sure that everything's in line. When they give me pricing, I want to make sure it's for the radio. I don't want them to come back and tell me that it's a different radio or something and, oh, you know, we have to add this or that. I want to know up front. I do have a quote for pagers, for the Unications pagers, for the Unication dealer here in the area. I had a conversation with Keith Range tonight about the numbers for the radios that they have. So I've got those now. I've got all the fire department numbers. I pulled those in. And basically what we're looking at for portable radios, just portable radios alone for the fire departments, we're looking at 121 radios. I think that number was seriously inflated at some point along the way. I think that may have been a sales effort. I'm not positive, but it may have been. We're looking at, and this is just for the fire alone, so that's where I'm going with this right now. 49 mobile radios that go in the trucks and 12 base stations to go in to all the different locations that they need a base station. We've got 64 pagers right now is what we're looking at. So there's a total of 64 pagers. One of the reasons we upped the number of the pagers and lowered the number of the portables was the cost savings. The pagers were pretty firm on the price, and they're going to be right around $825 for a pager. That may seem a little bit higher than what we originally thought, but these pagers are actually going to be dual band. And at some point, both systems are going to have to be up and running at exactly the same time, overlapping. So we're not sure which system we're going to be able to cut over to and when. So we're going to need to go with the dual band pagers so we can page on the VHF system that's currently in place. Once we get the 800 up and everybody gets everything installed and it's ready to move, then we'll make that cut over to the 800 system, and then we'll phase out the VHF stuff. So that's why we're going with the dual band pagers. They are a little bit more expensive, but they do have a 5-year warranty on them as well. So that will help as well.
Excuse me, Mark, if you don't mind me interrupting, that's a lot of information. So I'd like to pause right here and see if any commissioner has a question before you divulge any more information.
Sure.
I think we're going to get spaghetti and, you know, in our brains if I don't let them have a chance to ask a question right now.
Mark, you mentioned having options on the radios, so we don't have to go specifically with the Motorola. We can use something else.
I'll clarify that. With the infrastructure that goes in attacking radio sites out at the towers, that has to be Motorola. There's no way around that. That has to be Motorola. Now, all the other radios, from the mobiles, the portables, and all of that, to my knowledge, we did not sign an agreement with them at all. So if we didn't sign an agreement with them, we're free to do whatever we want. It'll go on. So that's what I'm looking into. Right.
Could be some cost savings there then from the original.
Yes. Depending on what Scott Tidwell comes back with price-wise, we're looking at probably 40% cost savings on mobile radios and the radios themselves.
Commissioner Von Cannon has a question.
Yes.
As you know, this project has started out at a number by the potential providers, and it's escalated. It's out of control. Have you had enough time to analyze the big picture and see if there's reductions that can be made in this system? Have you had the time to do that?
I've gone through on the firehouses and had pretty lengthy discussions with most of the fire chiefs and discussed where we could cut back on radios, and that's where we came up with these numbers. Other than that, the reductions in the number of radios that we can do, there probably aren't any reductions that I can do. As far as the big picture on cost savings and reductions, I don't think there's a lot to do other than going to a different vendor.
Next question, if you had been on board early, would you have written the specs differently than they're written now? Because we didn't know what we were doing. 2 or 3 of the young guys knew, but we were at the mercy of the man selling the package.
I understand.
When you're at the mercy of the man selling the package, he's going to sell you what he wants to sell you.
Yes.
Therefore, if you were writing the specs today, would you do anything differently? And would it be more efficient than it is, as you see it?
I would have done it differently, yes. The only reason I say that is because I've had 25.
What if I made the motion that we start all over? Would that be a reasonable?
I don't think it would help. The original RFP that went out, we can work with that because that is
We expect you to tell us what's wrong with it, to reduce the price if possible, and then let's see it again. But we're not ready for this. We're not ready to try to put something like this in motion until you tell us it's ready.
Okay. The reason I say I would have written it differently, it was written with specific wording in there for one specific vendor. I would have written it in a more generic form is what I would have done. I would have specified things in a more generic terminology. And as far as like I said, what you had was a basic foundation, and it was a really good foundation. It was well written. It was just the terminology was written for that one specific vendor. I would have opened it up so you would have had more options for other vendors to come in possibly. But the other one I think would have been Motorola that would have taken over the system.
So more or less, you are the man.
That's it. I understand.
Identifying using the P25 system. Is that system dependent on repeaters in our vehicles?
The repeaters in the vehicles are actually an accessory to a system.
Regardless of what you can call it, whatever you want. Do you have to have repeaters in your cars for our law officers? When we go to Elk Mills, and the places outside of that they can get out.
Right. That's one of the reasons we're looking at 4 specific tower sites in this county. Most of the other counties around, and some people aren't aware of this, they put this 800 megahertz system in. They said they had a lot of trouble with it. They have 1 tower in their county. Or they'll have 2 towers and one will be way over in another county that they can use. And they don't have the coverage that we're going to have. We have 2 towers right now, and you know the struggles that are going on now. I'm sure all of you have heard that. So what we're doing is we're actually adding 2 more over on the central and the eastern side of the county to cover these areas. So with that coverage and being simulcast, the system will actually have an additive effect.
So I don't believe we're going to need those, vehicular repeaters.
Okay, and what about looking into the fact that our fleet in law enforcement, I'm gonna say is, pretty well up to date. And their purchasing habits is when they buy a new car, it gets a new radio system rather than the days when I started. If you wreck 20 cars, that's the same radio system from car number 1 to car number 20, which was tube type, antiquated.
That's where I get my hands dirty.
Okay, but everything, okay, the point is, basically, those are new radios in our law enforcement vehicles. They may not be adapted to the P25 system. They have to go new.
I have to confirm that because I don't believe that they'll do 800 megahertz. If they won't do that in the RF frequency range that we need, I'm going to see if I can work some kind of a trade-in program. It may not be a huge trade-in, but it'll be some kind of a trade-in program where we can trade those radios in for some of the radios that will work on the 800 megahertz. I'm pretty certain we can do something like that. I talked with Wayne Farrow for a couple hours the other day, and he had mentioned something about upgrading the radios to a better radio. And with that, it was implied that we were going to get some kind of a trade-in with those radios, so we can find some way to offset some of the costs as well.
And then the other is that you had mentioned the Harris, that's the Harrison talk. That's what all of our military government has gone to now. They have discarded Motorola's. The Harris is a far more superior piece of equipment. They never could deal on the lower level like counties years ago, but now they have come out to where their system is quite superior. The next thing is, I chair the financial management of the county, which we are looking over the ARP, which that's the money that we're hoping to use to this. Are you going to tell us where we're operating at right now? Because there are other projects we have to give consideration also.
As far as cost figures,
Yeah, what's the total?
I don't have the bottom line yet because, like I said, I don't have the specific numbers from the vendors on those radios right now.
Well, I understand, I don't expect anything like that, but please remember that when you do, that you can convey that over to the financial management where we have to make decisions and recommendations on several other projects, and your project in itself is bearing on the other projects. We got, because if it's extremely high, that means that some's gonna get cut out.
I understand.
Because this is a infrastructure project. So keep us in tune. It's not that we have to spend it tomorrow. We've got till mid-year of 2024 to commit. So, but.
I hope to have the figures. I hope to have them by the end of the week next week.
Well, that's all right.
So
please, through your mayor's office.
Right, and that way I'll at least know what the mobiles, portables, pagers, and all that will cost. So I want to do some confirming on my math on the numbers here, as far as all the law enforcement that we're adding. We also have, we went ahead and added the county in, because if we leave the county out, then they won't have radios when we go to the agency. So they need radios. And then as well the buses. So I've got those in here.
Do you plan to oversee all of this as far as, are we bidding out subcontractors? What is your plan on that? You're either an RFP to bid out the total project and you to oversee and manage it, or are you going to oversee it, manage it, produce it, and sub out?
You should. Sub out which parts of it?
Any part of it, whether it's install it into a car, whether you're going to build a tire, whether you're going to put repeaters in.
Likely what we're going to do is we're going to go with Motorola with the sites. However, the build of the site, I'm going to work on that on my own. I'm going to see if we can find that build of that site and cut that middleman out. So maybe we can get those costs down. on building that site out instead of having a $1.5 million site. Maybe we can get that thing down to 750,000. I don't know. I'm working on it. So,
Thank you, Brian.
that I'm working on. And then with the mobiles and the portables and all that, when it comes time to install all that, that's quite an undertaking. The TAC and network is going to help with the programming, as far as I'm understanding, and Motorola originally did that they were going to help with the programming, but if we don't go with their radio equipment, I'm sure they won't. So we'll probably have to work through that, and I'll see if I can get the vendors that give us the radios. If I can send them the code plugs, send them the programming and the radios, they can actually take that programming and put it in there at the factory and send it to me already pre-programmed. So all I have to do is set that in motion beforehand. So that'll help cut down on any kind of outsourcing that I have to do for any kind of work. I might need some help as far as installing it, because that's a lot of numbers to do, is to try and install for one person.
I do have a question. You were talking about building new towers and stuff out so up toward Road Mountain in that area. Did you talk to the state? Because they expressed interest that they would help fund part of it, or maybe all of it, because they needed it for the state park up there. So if there is money there that they can contribute, we need to make sure we get that.
Right. Part of this build out on the White Rock site is part of it. I think the microwave system, I think they're picking up the microwave system. I'm not positive on that. I'll have to check. But they're going to pick that microwave system up, and that's significant. That's a big system, and it's quite a bit of cost to put in. The only other thing is the fourth site. I told you we're going to put the other site out on the other side, east side of the county. It's actually going into Avery County, and it benefits the state hacking their radio network. It benefits them to put that site out there, and they told us, they said, we'll put you in out there. All you have to do is buy 2 boxes to put in the site, and we'll put the rest of it in. So they're gonna fund that one pretty much. So we're looking at a lot of savings right there already. And I'm already trying to work on them, trying to see if we can't find some other funding from the state somewhere.
This project, as it now stands, has a dollar figure of what, 3.1 million or thereabouts?
0.7 maybe?
3.7.
Was, yeah.
And if we tonight approve the budget as it's written, we are going to have to borrow how much to complete the project? We're going to have to borrow what, 1.5 million or 2 million?
It depends on how much you decide to take out of ARP funds.
Why should we be borrowing money with all of it floating in here from everywhere? Can you find a reduction of $2 million in this project or $1 million in this project?
I could probably find $1 million. That's what I'm working on
It
now.
would make it a lot easier on the taxpayer if you could find $500,000 on this project.
I agree.
You could find that.
I agree.
We've got that established. Now, can we go 750,000? Do the auction.
How cheap do
We're bidding now. I'm working trying to save $1 million off the top of this.
Well, since they sold us the package, you've got to protect us to make sure we're gonna get what we need
Exactly.
and what we don't need.
Right. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm doing my best to put in a radio system that, number one, is going to function, and number two, draws down to where it needs to be.
Thank you for saying we could find a reduction because
We can find a reduction.
we had some idea of it. Okay, good.
I just want to clarify because the number has gone up from 3.7. When you say you could probably get it down $1 million, are you talking $1 million off of 3.7 or $1 million off of 5 point, whatever the last number was?
6.7.
5.6. Yeah, it's 5 point something. This week. I'm gonna have to go revisit the numbers on the 5.4 million. I'm pretty certain we can take $1 million off of the top of that. I don't know if we can get it down below the 3.7.
Okay, and I think, Mr. Ridings Commission, you correct me if I'm wrong, okay? But I think that all of us were under the impression you were speaking tonight about the numbers. That is our primary interest right now, because we're trusting you implicitly with all the little details you've been going over with us tonight. What we need in order to make votes this evening and in the future is a number. That's very, very important to all of our decisions going forward. So, I don't, unless there's something else in your report that you really feel like we need to be told tonight, I think that we might just need to stop here and just impress upon you our need for a number as quickly as possible. Commission, am I right or am I wrong?
Can that be sent to all commissioners, not just management?
See why it couldn't.
Well, he had said send it to finance management. We all need to.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay with you?
That's fine with me.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Let's take a 10-minute break right here, please. 10 minutes, thank you.
Hey, Tester, your meters are full.
Start.
No, thanks, it's rolling. It's rolling.
They're just barely that big. And it's still right here.
Yeah, we gotta get that down, don't we?
How's it skill?
She gave him the ginger.
I gave her mine.
Well, whatever. Hey, Liz. Guess what music Justin Butler.
I didn't lay out on you last meeting.
I went out of town.
Research.
Jerry said you were
Research.
hoping to shut it back.
Yeah, I was too. Every shot I could get. Had the swamp for that.
No, I know.
It's just gonna be.
Is the ceiling.
You survive it or not.
Jason or Justin said.
Supposed to cut it unless. We should have Congress in there.
I'm gonna see Jerry now. Step over that before me. There you go. Your house party. He's had 5 or 6 million. Brought something. These people everywhere. Knock on the door. They said, Jason, open the door. And he was tearing it. He shuts it back and starts screaming. They said people were jumping up on it. That's gonna be a mess. Problem with that is got his headphones. You want your headphones? Are you sure?
Got headphones there.
Oh, no, but these are listen, these are good ones. You can hear good, and it's hit to the system.
We've got them now. So they are now.
That much water before.
I think it's.
Just kidding. I didn't go down there. Go down there. It's still pouring. Yeah, it used to work.
Came up here and asked.
Systems up. It's just the only thing that's not working is these mics, but you need yours to work.
Just get him on the phone. Get him on the phone.
How about roll my ankle? How are you? Oh, man. I don't know yet. Here in the mountain. Yeah, really? You roll your windows up your truck? I'm feeling those days.
play. You know what?
Say something, see if I can hear you. that make a difference? How we vote tonight?
Okay, so we've had a little bit more than 10 minutes there. Let's get started again. We are on our agenda at item number 14A. And I'll turn the floor over to our attorney, Josh Harden.
All right, the first resolution there on your agenda is a resolution to retire Deputy Spike, a K-9 service dog, from active service with the Carter County, Tennessee Sheriff's Office and place him in the permanent care of his handler. Pretty self-explanatory, and then there's an agreement that goes with it that will have the officer sign. His current handler Deputy Kent, will keep the dog into his retirement, provide for his needs, hold the county harmless for any liability or cost from the point of retirement forward.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Thank you. So we have a motion by Nancy Brown and a second by Jerry Prophet. Any discussion? Okay. Please vote on the resolution to retire Deputy Spike. Please reveal. All right, motion passes.
He's not eligible for Social Security yet, but he's almost. Resolution B is authorizing submission of an application requesting Tennessee Water Infrastructure Investment Program American Rescue Plan funds. And this is simply the resolution approving the 10% match for the TDEC projects that the list was in financial management minutes. The projects that were approved, this is the county's portion of the match.
Motion to approve. Second.
A motion by Randall Jenkins, second by Isaiah Grindstaff. Any discussion needed on these water projects? Okay, please vote. Bill? For the TDEC funding.
I'll try to talk loud. Okay. Resolution C on the list is to provide financial assistance to be paid from Carter County tax revenues to low-income elderly taxpayers, totally and permanently disabled homeowners, and disabled veterans, in addition to the tax relief already provided by the state of Tennessee. This is the annual resolution we do each year. It provides folks that fall into those categories and own their primary home they live in Carter County with a tax credit of $40 for their property taxes each year.
I heard a motion by Nancy Brown and a second by Mark Blevins. Thanks to everyone who participated. Any questions on this? All right, let's vote on the tax relief. Please show us the vote. The motion passes.
Okay, resolution D is making appropriations to certain nonprofit, charitable, and civic organizations serving Carter County, Tennessee, for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2022 and ending June 30, 2023. Total appropriations are $1,197,499.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion to approve by Mark Blevins, second by Aaron Frazier. Any discussion on these as presented in your packet? Okay, please vote. Show us. Motion passes 21 to 1 to 1, one absentee.
Okay, resolution E is the budget resolution. This is a resolution making appropriations for the various funds, departments, institutions, offices, and agencies of Carter County, Tennessee for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2022 and ending June 30th, 2023.
Motion to approve.
Second. Okay, we have a motion by Mark Levins, a second by Robin McCamey. Any discussion?
Is this our full budget that we're voting on now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Back up, I want to withdraw my motion.
Mark Levins has withdrawn his motion to approve this. So do we have a motion to approve from someone else?
No, I didn't want to approve. I want to speak about it.
Okay, well, we don't have a motion on the floor to approve it right now.
I'll make the motion.
A motion to approve by Ross Garland, a second by Travis Hill now. You got that, Ms. Glenn? And we'll enter discussion now, Mr. Von Cannon.
For about 2 years, Mr. Carpenter, we've been hoodooed by the Department of Education concerning the fact that you were way over a BEP for this state. We figure that, but we couldn't rein you in, not you, but your predecessors, because maintenance of effort kept us from doing that, because you can automatically spend within a percentage of the previous year's budget. Therefore, with the ratio of pupils per teacher of 10 or 12 students per teacher, that was way under the state level. It may not have been under, but I heard all you guys brag about that. We should have geniuses in this, coming out of this county at that kind of ratio. Is when we need somebody here to answer the questions. Always, we need somebody from the Department of Education here to answer the questions. We never have had somebody here. And I think that's something we've got to look at, number one. Number two, the best money we could have spent in this budget was for the volunteer firemen and for the constables, anybody that's volunteering their time. And that is, you couldn't pay. We don't have enough money to pay the volunteer firemen if we had to, tax money. Therefore, that should have been a priority. The other thing was the management of some of the departments was pretty bad shape. For example, we are about $500,000 in the hole from the sheriff department. Why? Because 93% of the sheriff department's people, they were allowed to get COVID. Why? If I'm correct of what they've been told, the sheriff told them, if you wear a mask, I fire you. 93% of the people got COVID, time and a half, or comp time. Therefore, that is bad management. And that didn't help the taxpayer of this county. Not at all. So, that's all I've got to say about 3 or 4 items of that sort. We've got to get a little better control of the information given us to vote on these things. And the Department of Education has been one, I'll have to say, we don't know diddly. We just go, yes, 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 yes. And it's got to stop. All of these got to stop. We got to have more communication, better understanding of what's going on in each department. I thank you for your time, and it's just good management. And we've had, I can't say that. We've not had good communications in the last 2 years, but I understand that. COVID has caused us to hide out from each other. And we've done a good job of that. We've got to get back on the even keel and be managers of the taxpayers' money. Thank you.
You, Mr. Bannon, we are in a time of discussion. Brad Johnson.
Madam Chair, with this, being the budget 101 budget, this does not include raises for the employees of this county, correct, Financial Director?
The current budget?
Yeah.
It does.
It has,
Those were added as they were approved by the budget committee.
okay, so we do not have to, it might be to the county attorney, using or claiming the maintenance of effort from a department within our structure. Does that not have to be voted on by the full commission?
Yeah, you have through the budget committee, an approved amount, if you're talking about the school department, I mean, you have an approved amount through the budget committee, and this is the recommended budget, and it includes the full funding. If you all want to reduce that funding, then the full commission can vote on that, certainly, but it's already in here now, the full allotted amount to the school department.
Okay, to verify, in the budget committee, Commissioner Frazier, he wasn't president, Miss Julie. The budget committee sent the education department back with their budget unacceptable. And they were told to return for presentation with the maintenance of effort extracted from it. Now, they also voted for the next meeting, on a special call meeting, for the budget that was presented, which was done by the prior director. It did not have any deductions for the maintenance of effort in it. Now, which one of these numbers are right?
Yeah, well, what's in here is, to my knowledge, the numbers I was given is what's in this resolution this is what was approved by budget committee.
Well, that's what I'm afraid of. If it is, that means the budget that was proposed by the prior director of the school department without the maintenance of effort.
That is correct. It does not have the maintenance.
Okay, so that means that we have to move to be able to give our employees raises, that we're going to have to take that issue up before you can approve this total budget.
Yeah, this is the entire budget. I mean, this is the appropriation resolution. This is the macro, or this is the big picture appropriations. The small details are the full entire 100 and something page budget that y'all have down to each line item in each office. And this is what was approved by budget committee. So yeah, if there's changes to be made that are allowed, and certain ones aren't, certain ones aren't. But the school funding is one that can be voted on here.
But that means that to enable us to use or to exercise our rights for the maintenance of effort, that the motion on the floor right now needs to be turned down to where you can make the modification on the budget of the school department, correct?
Right, and we can't.
So remember that when you vote. Thank you.
The way that works, just to clarify, is if you all reduce the funding of the school department, the Board of Education, they have 10 days to meet your number. You can't tell them where to cut it from. You can call it whatever you want to, but you're reducing the bottom line funding. They have 10 days. If they meet that number, however they meet it, that's it. They don't have to come back here again.
Okay, so in the fall of this, if this resolution fails, then it needs to come back in on the floor with the motion of the use of maintenance of effort with the Department of Education in the amount of that we're going to extract from their budget, right?
Yeah, basically what I'm getting at is if you would adjust the bottom line number funding for the schools and approve that number tonight, amend this resolution on the floor tonight and approve that number, and then they get to go meet that number. And they don't have to come back here next month or next week or anytime. If they meet that number, and we're done. If you give them directions and wait for them to come back again, and they could be here on and on and on. So the goal is to amend it tonight, approve it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Chair. I'd like everybody to be aware that Mr. Carpenter has stood and said that basically he's tried to cut down to 100,000. Keep that in mind. He's been here 2 weeks. I can say I am part of central office staff. I have seen him get rid of 8 or 9 people, send them back to the classroom. So he is working, trying to fix this. So it's not being told that we're fixing it and then nothing happened. So I'd like that to be considered that, I mean, if you do take it, keep in mind that a man is trying to fix something and you can't fix 2 years worth of moving in 2 weeks. So, I think we need to look at, he said he could probably cut 100,000, maybe take that in consideration. That, I know the goal was around 230 something, but, you don't fix 2 and 3 years worth of problems in 2 weeks.
Take it. I'm gonna call on Randall Jenkins.
So Budget Committee, I know you all have worked hard on this and I really, really want to vote on this budget and pass it. But in good faith, I cannot vote on this with this much increase and turn it over to the next committee or the next commission that's coming in a few months. Because they're gonna be stuck holding it and raising taxes next year all at once. So we need to find another route. We need to take some action. We need to stand up and do what's right. We haven't raised, it's whatever avenue, it sounds like Mr. Johnson has a good avenue to go at. So proceed on.
Aaron Frazier.
Attorney Harden, isn't there a policy in place that would prevent us from using funds out of the unassigned fund balance? As it is presented for reoccurring costs?
Yes, there is currently a resolution that's been approved. I think it was 2018. It's still in effect. The Financial Management Committee's talked about it a couple of 3 times over the last few months, but it's still effective. And so to use the fund balance to balance the budget, you would have to supersede that resolution, or you need 2/3 vote, essentially as it stands right now, to supersede that policy.
So on the voting now for this, it would need to meet the 2/3 majority, or do we need to suspend the rules for this vote to be able to proceed?
No, you don't need to suspend the rules to consider the resolution. It just has to be 2/3 vote to carry, to pass. It's properly before the.
Brad Johnson again.
Madam Chair, again, a couple of issues. One, we're not voting on whether to take it out of the unassigned fund balance. This goes into effect as far as claiming the maintenance of effort.
Yeah, like I said.
So there's no question of whether it's a 2/3 vote or not. The majority would get it to turn down the present budget presentation. And then the motion will follow it as to going to the maintenance of effort, naming the amount and where it's to come from, and that goes by a majority vote.
Not where it's to come from, but yes, reducing it. But my understanding of it is if this appropriation resolution as drafted balances the county's budget by taking money out of the fund balance, right? So if to pass this appropriation resolution as drafted, because it uses the fund balance to balance the budget, it needs 2/3 vote. I mean, that's.
We're not using the unassigned fund balance to budget, to balance the budget.
Yes,
Yeah, they are.
Yes, we are on this one. That's how this one was written. Because we had, I'm sorry. Because on the MOE, we decided after Commissioner Collins and Chairwoman Holdren talked to us, we decided to not take the MOE at that point. We did, however, last week, and Director Watson can tell us this, possibly found another way to do more monies, which was taking out of the CTE projected revenues. Can you explain that to him? I know you'll explain it better than I will.
Yeah, so one of the things that we looked at with the workforce development, we had taken that completely out of the budget as far as the revenue is concerned. we'd put the entire year of expenses that would be remaining until the state turns it over, but we'd put it in there for the whole year. In discussion with the mayor and her discussion with the state, it looks like they may be able to take that at about the 6-month mark. So until they take it, we will be getting that revenue in. So I went in and looked at May's revenue, and we looked at expenses, and we could do a pickup of about $120,000 by reducing the expenses for 6 months and including that revenue. Now, that is, of course, not anything set in stone. Those are just estimates of what we're looking at could be a potential possibility. So with the $306,000 that we were short, that would be $120,000 of that would be made up. That still doesn't cover.
But we'll have a balance that we have to come up with.
That is correct.
Okay, but you still have to go back to the maintenance of effort. That's the only place we have either that or raise taxes on the citizens, and I don't think that's gonna happen.
So the only other option is to raise
Maintenance of
taxes,
effort.
take maintenance of effort, or to go to fund balance. That's your only 3 options to make up the difference.
And then to address, Madam Chair, Commissioner Bailey, and I appreciate him very much, he's very conscious about his work, his presentation, but I'm gonna recall to your memory, yes, Dr. Carpenter is a great asset for this county. And it's just like I had to use the example, it only took us 3 months to get good and fat by eating all our Krispy Kreme donuts on, but it's gonna take us 5 or 6 years to slim down. And I don't expect to see Dr. Carpenter try to resolve this problem altogether. But I do want to remind you as commissioners on this floor that during our whole total process of the budget, our our finance director and the finance committee, they set down a schedule for everybody in this county. Totally. Dates, times, presentations. You got the dirty spots on your shirts and your trousers from the school board wiping their feet on you, not the superintendent, because he is a messenger. He works for a board. Every time that it was refused in 5 different committee meetings was brought back with a smile on the face, and they did not uphold what the request of the subcommittees were in the budget. Matter of fact, is the leading cause why we are not making our date to send our approved budget to the state as required by the Tennessee Code annotated. And then when we directed them to go back and to resubmit, to bring it within budget, they refused to do it because they didn't show up with it. Now, I don't have no sympathy for them because they're going to have to learn that a full county commission has responsibility and you're elected as responsible leaders in all your communities, and they are a sub below us. When a budget committee addresses the use of the funds in this county, that they better start paying attention. And that's the only way that I know right now it's left. We've done everything except we've kissed her ring, we've bumped her fist, and I'm not gonna kiss her behinds. But I think it's time that we boot it once to make them understand that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sure.
Hang on just a second. If Travis Hill still wants to speak, he's.
We're gonna let Mark.
I've just got one thing to say. Mr. Johnson, I think we've got good school boards over there. We've got some sorry ones, I agree with you. But I've watched this voting process from the school board. One man in particular, yeah, he's a friend of mine, do anything I could for him. Keith Byers stood up against every one of them over there. If you can pull the record, he voted no, so I think we need to get that. Not all the school boards bad. Yeah, most of them is, but you've got one that for sure ain't. All I got to say.
Travis.
All right, so we addressed this the other night. Director Watson, can you address the large one-time expenditures that will hit this budget, like the commission going to the conference, the extra election this year?
Yes, so this was an election year where they're going to have 2 elections, so her budget was up significantly, almost double. We also have over half of the commission that were up for election, so therefore we had to put the entire amount of commissioners in to go to Nashville, especially since of COVID. They haven't been for 2 years. That doesn't mean Everyone is required to, any new commissioners are required to, but returning commissioners didn't. However, we had to put them all in there. That was another significant amount that was in this budget. We had no choice but to put those in there. So those are very large numbers that would not be in a normal ongoing budget.
It's only about 100K, ain't it?
No, just the election commission was well over $100,000 because it's 2 elections with additional officers and additional hours. So hers was
Talking about the
significant.
May election and the August election is. You're talking about, okay.
There's August and the November.
So you're at that number, and now you're recognizing 6 months of revenue, you're cutting 6 months of expenditure. So you're getting very close to that $300,000 number that we're short, basically.
Each election costs us about what, 70 grand.
Not since COVID. It's more since COVID.
Yeah, it's been more. It was more like 140. I could look it up. It's more like 140,000.
For both elections, 70 grand, right?
Yes, Mark Tester.
Ms. Carolyn,
Yes.
what we're essentially looking at, bottom line, we can water all this all we want to, but you're basically still in the hole of $300,000 that you're going to take from fund balance, right?
Right now it's at 306, so we can make up 120,000 of that. That leaves us a deficit of 189. Now, Mr. Carpenter has said, or Dr. Carpenter, excuse me, has said that he can make up 100,000 right off the bat, from what I understand it. That leaves us a little less than $100,000 short. So if someone has a recommendation of where we come up with that amount, then we can balance the budget as it stands.
I mean, we can do just like we do it normal. We just cut the election budget, and next month we'll just do a budget amendment.
Gee whiz, I'll send you a Christmas card at the prison, it don't matter.
Do it every year.
The bottom line is, we're still having, with this budget, we're trying to pull from the fund balance, which we're not supposed to do.
That is
There's a
correct.
resolution that says we are not supposed to do that.
That is correct.
So we have to find another measure to balance this budget, or otherwise you're gonna be in the hole for the next commission starting out.
That's correct. That's correct. Julie Glenn.
So, Ms. Carolyn, did we not have, wasn't there like $60,000 where we returned back in from the Park and Rec director that we decided not to keep?
That's all included.
That's included already. So if we, to clarify here, if we turn down this budget, we turn around, as Mr. Johnson says, and we come up with, instead of taking it out of unassigned, we're looking at the revenues from the CTE. And then, 100,000 from the maintenance of effort. So then we'll have to come up with the rest for that, but we'll have to turn it down to do this, right?
Yes. So that means either you're gonna have to raise taxes, you're gonna have to pull off maintenance of effort, or you're gonna have to come up with another reduction somewhere.
We would need to do an additional, what, 89,000 for MOE? So 189 off of an MOE.
That's if we do the difference related to the workforce development. And that is assuming that the state is gonna take it by January 1st. Mark Tester.
Mayor, do you feel comfortable cutting that?
I've been working with the director, and I just want to make this commission aware with Dr. Carpenter and myself. We've been working behind the scenes to find ways to balance this budget for our employees. We've seen every county around us give raises, and we have got to help our employees. We've got to stay somewhat competitive. We are losing employees at a phenomenal rate. They just cannot stay here. And so we've been working, and I think Roger wants to speak also about an idea or an option for a cut in his budget that may help us balance it so we can keep our employees with this salary increase. And I'll turn it over to Roger.
In the highway budget, we have a item in it that's highway equipment. It's $100,000. Since the commission has given us money out of our budget, out of our fund balance to buy new trucks and some other equipment, and you also give us money out of our out of what I call the governor's money to buy some pickup truck or 1-ton pickups. I think we could do without that $100,000 in that line, this fiscal year. That's the budget.
Just this fiscal year or
Well,
reoccurring?
Well, I can only speak for this year. I can only speak for this year. That would help this time.
Is your fund balance still in good shape?
Yes, it is.
Well, by the time we're done with that, you're hoping that the property will be completely over.
All right, let's stay in order, please. The floor is Ross Garland's at this time.
Sounds like we may have some options to reduce this budget or find ways to not have to dip into fund balance. I'll rescind my motion.
We'll have to vote it down before we can.
Will I take it out?
You don't. You just have to amend this office. Josh was saying the entire time, you just amend the one we have, and you can vote. I mean, you don't have to actually.
Which option we taking? Because there's about 14 that's out there.
He did withdraw his motion. Yes. So there is no motion on the floor at this time.
Attorney Harden, so we can amend this from taking from the unassigned and, no, you have to turn it down, right? Okay, that's what I thought.
This resolution is voting on the amount of money you're putting in each fund for each office to spend. And the rest of the big picture is what's the other side of that gives us that money to spend, right? So right now, if we spend everything that's in here, we're short however much it is now.
I make the motion to turn it down.
I second that. Let's vote on voting down and fix it.
So a motion to turn down the budget as presented at this time is made by Nancy Brown. It has a second by Gary Bailey.
So everybody's clear that we are voting, it's a motion to vote it down.
If you vote yes, you are saying no to the budget.
I understand that.
Yes, Aaron Frazier.
Just as a point of clarification, this just have to be a simple majority on this particular vote, correct?
Yes, sir. I thought we already had the motion to approve, and that's how we got to discussion.
We did, but then rescinded it.
Oh, okay.
So what's the plan then?
We're gonna be here all night. That's the plan. Saying 120 from there.
All right, order. Vote no to the budget, but you will need to vote aye if that is how you feel. If you vote nay, you are essentially saying, yes, I like the budget as presented. Is everybody clear on that? Any questions?
Just so everybody knows, we were at 130,000 in the black before we give raises. That's why you're $306,000 in the hole right now. Just so you know.
We appreciate you, Budget Committee. Okay.
If you're saying this is gonna reoccur, then the election next year won't happen, so that's
correct.
That's your 70,000 or 80 or more. And then if, Roger gives over money, and then the school gives money, then next year, you're not gonna have this deficit.
Not related to that particular problem.
Right, I mean, you may have
That
another.
particular reoccurring expense.
Right.
Now, who knows what else will come out, but.
Right. If the budget were to go again, you're not gonna have this 300 and whatever, 306, because we would have taken care of it now.
Yes, that's correct. Also, keep in mind that in this budget, there are extensive items that have inflationary costs related to them. So any type of fuel, petroleum, things of that nature, electricity, utilities, all of those are inflated about 20%. Now, one would hope that that would also go down in the following year because of what's been going on recently. But I mean, even fuel costs at this point have come down. However, when we put this budget together, fuel costs were through the roof. So all of those types of items are greatly inflated in this budget. We are hopeful that that will not continue into the following year. But we had no choice but to be conservative and put it in the budget for this year.
That was food costs as well for jail and schools.
Yes, those all went up significantly. We hope those will all level back out. But at the time we did this budget and put all the documents together, that's what we were looking at, so that's what we had to do.
And I would like to say to every one of you here, when we sat through this budget process and we sat through every budget committee meeting, we saw department heads come forward and they were asked to be very frugal in their budgets so that we could possibly get these raises done. And with the exception of maybe one or two, most of them were fabulous about holding down their costs and trying to be very tight with their budgets. So it's important to them to get their employees these raises as well. It was a big deal for us when we sat there and listened to this, and we know that they worked hard to do it. They worked with the director to try and break down their budgets so that they could understand them more and they would know better where everything was going to be. She did a phenomenal job. But I just want y'all to know that these department heads did this, every one of them. So just think about that when when you're thinking about what we're going to do here.
I'm going to call for the vote, but before I do, I just want to say one more time. If you vote aye right now, you are voting down the current budget. Are we all clear? All right, here we go.
Here we go.
All right, show us the vote. All right, so the motion has passed, which means the budget has failed. Okay. The floor is open for a new motion on the budget.
I make the motion that we accept all that was presented.
So basically, not to take it out of fund balance, we need 306,000.
Still a little short though.
That's my question, is how, you take Rogers, and you take everything, how short are you?
We're still short $50,000.
Tell us how are we short?
So we were at 306. So if we take the 306, sorry, I just closed my calculator. We put back in 160 that would be basically workforce development. That's putting in the revenue that we get from the rentals and taking out 6 months of the expenses that were currently budgeted. That's basically utilities and things of that nature. So we're assuming that they're going to take over the first of the year, that the state's going to take it. And then if we do the $100,000 from the school, that would mean we would reduce our appropriation to the school, $100,000.
That should put you at three.
What about Rogers?
That should
Well,
put you
I
at 360.
started saying, do you want, nobody said one way or the other. Roger offered it, but nobody told me whether that was acceptable.
260 right now.
260.
So that's 260 between those two items. The other things that are considered is Roger's offer to reduce what we appropriate, the county appropriates to the highway department, or taking additional monies from the school system, or raising taxes a penny. That's really our only options at this point, other than to cut departmental budgets for the county.
There are inflations there.
There are, but right now, that's the way they are in the budget, because that's.
Those can come up.
All right, I'm going to call on Travis Hill, and next will be Kelly Collins.
Is there any wiggle room in sales tax?
No. It's squeezed. I'm not comfortable. We just got in the June numbers. I am not comfortable taking that any higher than it is.
So why can't we take out of fund balance the election extra money that's going to be needed this year, since it won't be reoccurring next year? And also the commission trip to Nashville that won't be recurring for another 4 years. Why can't that be taken out of fund balance? That budget that much.
The way I had to prepare the budget was that every commissioner had the opportunity to go, and that she requested for her budget for all of those expenses to be part of it, which.
Well, I understand that she has to
I
have it.
I can't make that change,
Right.
but
I mean, why can't we put that in to do it? I mean, since it's only gonna be 1 year, the commission's going to Nashville. I don't know exactly how many are going. You probably could get an estimate on that. And take that out of, fund balance, since it's not reoccurring.
I guess you would have to vote to reduce
And
that,
did
those
that
two
occur?
budgets.
You can do that. I mean, you can do that. Well, not even reducing those appropriations, but just taking, you can vote to take that balance from the fund balance to make the budget balance. And then if all the commissioners aren't going to the training, that money won't actually get spent. And so that money will be there to roll back in. And just to make the balance, the budget balance this year for those costs that won't be on there next year, you can take for fund balance. That takes 2/3 vote.
I have to put it in, but you can vote to do otherwise.
Okay, so Aaron Fraser, you had your hand up first.
I was just going to speak to Ms. Collins's point. For us to take any funds out of the fund balance to make it balance, we would have to have the 2/3 vote. It's the way that the resolution is written within the rules that were set up in 2018. So I understand what you're saying, Ms. Collins. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way based
That's
on
not
how
what
it's
I'm
written.
saying. I'm saying, why can't we reduce the election budget? Say the election's $80,000, or to say $100,000, be it. Budget $100,000, and then turn around and make.
You still have to come
That
out.
would have to be run next year.
I know it has to come out of fund balance, but.
You have to make the appropriation for expenses that you know are gonna happen. Like the election's happening in November, she has to have the money, so it has to be in there.
Let's please listen, please.
I have no choice, but because of that, I have no choice but to put it in the budget.
Even the Nashville trip too.
I believe, Ms. Kelly, if I may say, we get an audit finding if we do what you're asking us to do.
Well, I have no choice but to put it in the budget.
Randall.
I'm trying to figure out.
So I'd like to make a true, is that all right? I'll make a true motion that we fix the budget by taking 160, or taking the plan of the 160K off the CTE project.
Okay.
We take $100,000 off the school's budget. And we take 46K from the highways.
Highway vehicles.
Highway vehicle, thank you.
A second.
Stepping up. So, and that should put us right at $306,000, taking us to a budgeted, or a balanced budget.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Oh,
she already.
For Gwen's sake, Randall, will you please repeat that one more time?
Absolutely. So to balance the budget, we are taking 160,000 from CTE, 100,000 from the school general budget, and 46K from the highway vehicle.
46.
Or, you're not taking it from one line item, we're just taking it out of your budget.
I want to go back, but
Well,
I want
we'll be taking it out of the highway vehicle.
46.
Yeah, the 46K, yes. So that should put us at 306,000, balancing the budget so we can pass it without taking from fund balance nor raising taxes and giving the employees an amazing raise.
And I had seconded it.
There's revenue.
Okay, so motion by Randall, second by Julie Gwen. I got a few hands raised. I'm gonna just go down the line. So Travis Hill.
I was going to ask if Dr. Carpenter could find 46,000 out of a $40 million budget instead of 46,000 out of a $4 million budget.
I can, but it comes from, there's gonna be some repercussions that I don't think that's good for any of our communities, because we just don't have time to sit down and, I mean, we have to get school started. You know, that's the big thing. If we had another month, we could probably do it where it wouldn't affect everybody near as much. But, you know, when you're talking a week or two before school starts, it has to be something pretty heavy.
Okay, Aaron.
One thing I want to point out, Roger, how many years have you had that line item set at around 100 grand?
I've been here 8 years, it's been 100 grand.
All right, so that's a reoccurring cost. We're just dropping it for this 1 year. We're gonna have to make it up again next year.
What
So-
I'm saying, I think he can make it up.
I think if we can get through this year, we have a new funding formula, TISA, and it's actually going to allow the school system an opportunity to expand our pot of funds, okay? Plus, we have plans to streamline as well. So it's not only going to allow us to, you know, have what we have, but we're going to be able to pay our teachers more eventually and not count on this money. So the big thing is, and I'm not big on Band-Aids, but honestly, we need a Band-Aid for this year and give us a chance to get things straight to where we can do it the right way and not have to make a decision that is not good for our kids and, you know, the employees. That's what I do not want to do. I want to make the right decisions. And if we have to make one on a whim, it's probably not going to be the best one for everybody involved.
Dr. Kohler.
I'd like to make a friendly amendment if we could. Sitting here doing the figuring and Roger's offered 100 and Dr. Carpenter's offered 100. Why don't we take 75 from each of them and that would cover it with 160 from the workforce development. That way it won't put him in a bind. He can, if he thinks he can do 175, we won't have as much to recur for the highway department next year. So I'd ask for a friendly amendment that we have the amount, 75 and 75.
From who?
It's 120,000.
120.
Not 160. It's $60 in revenue, 60,000 in revenue and
Yeah, 69 in revenue and 60 in expenses. So that is.
What's the total from workforce development?
120. 120, not 160. So it's 86. Sorry, that's the number I had originally.
All right, so Randall, at the very least, there's gonna have to be a correction to your motion.
Yeah, I apologize.
And you can accept or decline the friendly amendment.
Yeah. So I really think, director over there is gonna, in good faith, I think he's gonna try to do something this coming year. We just can't put it all on him at once. I really hope so. I'm putting faith in you. So taking the 86K from Roger's budget to carry us over this time around gives the school system enough time to find some money. And it gets us through this year for this reoccurring cost. So that would be 120 from CTE, 100 from the school, and 86 from the highway budget.
Did you get that, Gwen?
86 from the highway, 120 from CPE,
Yeah.
100 from school.
Okay, so he's just restated his motion. Julie, you'll second it as amended.
Yes, now.
Oh, Bob.
Yeah, what you just stated, she's still gonna be your second. All right, so we're still in discussion. Yes, Aaron?
Sorry, guys. What was the amount of revenue that we have scheduled from at the workforce development?
In the current budget, there's zero.
Zero. But I'm talking in this, there was 160,000 realized revenue?
$69,000 in revenue and $60,000 in expenses that we could reduce. So it's 120,000. So I apologize, I'd written it down wrong. But it's $120,000 that we could make up in the budget between reducing the expenses and putting in the revenue. We chose not to put the revenue into the original budget, but as long as we have occupancy of the building and the state hasn't taken it, we get those revenues. And we knew that at the time of the budget. We were just being conservative with that estimation because at that point, we weren't sure when they were going to take it.
Okay, but we've still got the issue of Rogers is normally a reoccurring expense. I understand that he could be reducing his, but I don't think, because we've added in the reoccurring expense of the raises. We're just taking out of lines that are also reoccurring to put into a line that's going to be reoccurring.
Yes, but next year, we will not have the addition for the elections, and we will not have the requirement of all the commissioners being allowed to go for training. So those two items will be reduced already, we know, out of next year's budget.
Just 48,000.
Right, but those are going to come up in another 2 years, 4 years again.
Yes, well, I mean,
It's only 3 elections every 4 years.
yes, every 4 years that would occur. And then it would depend on how many commissioners change out. This time we have a good amount of commissioners that have the potential to change out. So that's why the expense is so much in this particular budget.
You said the Nashville was 50,000 budgeted to go to Nashville. The commissioners are around 50,000.
It's a little bit more than that because there are class fees we had to put into the budget for every commissioner to go stay in a single hotel room.
But I'm saying that that's kind of what you did, but not everybody's going, so.
More than likely they will not, but I had to put it in there.
Right, so
for
that
all
will
of
be
them.
even, some of that's even going to come back.
Yes, it was significantly less the last couple of years. Of course, that was also to take into consideration in COVID. But what was recommended.
I'm not going, so right there saying how much. I can't take off, right, Dr.
Well,
Carter?
because we had to put per diem in there for the mileage, we had to put that in there for the meals, the class fees and the hotels. And so that is why that expense is so large.
No, I knew that. I just meant, I know that some of us are not going. So we won't be spending that total amount this year.
Yeah.
So some of that's going to go back also.
Exactly.
Not
It
just
will.
next year, but this year.
It will go back. Some of it will go back this year more than likely. And we also assumed that they would not be traveling together. There is that potential to save money as well. But we had to put it in there, what would be the most it could possibly cost.
Okay, Aaron Fraser.
Sorry again. For the school system, they included raises. Were they digging into their fund balance still to perform those raises?
Yes.
How much?
$970. I mean, $970,000.
Okay, so they're digging into their fund balance, $970,000. So they're out of round already $970,000. And that's going to be a reoccurring cost.
Well, TISA will be changing all these formulas next year, and we don't know what those numbers are at this point. They will be different than what the current BEP formulas are.
I can cut the $46,000, but if it's $46,000, we're gonna have to put somebody out of work that's expecting a job in 2 weeks. That we've already hired, they've missed the opportunity to get a job somewhere else because everybody else has done their hiring. So, that's, if you want us to cut $150,000, we'll cut $150,000.
No, I'm looking at the overall of everything because, and I know this isn't specifically on you, but that budget's $970,000 out of round. I understand that you're expecting to get funding over the next couple of years from TISA, but you're jumping into it $970,000 out. We're $300,000 out and we're taking from reoccurring costs. I understand we have some one-time expenses that'll be coming up this year. Those potentially going to be popping up again in another 4 years. We're robbing Peter to pay Paul to get through on this particular section. Just because $970,000, that's a considerable chunk. I understand you guys have a healthy fund balance, and you've got a fund balance that's greater than even what the county's is, but.
What, I asked, what is the school balance?
$12 million.
How much?
$12 million.
Brad Johnson.
Madam Chair, I call for the motion. We're wearing it out.
Call for the motion.
I'll second.
It's two-thirds votes to stop discussion.
All right. All right, so we have to vote now on whether to stop discussion so that we can do a vote. And as you just heard Attorney Harden say, 2/3 right now stops the discussion. Does anybody not understand what we're about to vote on?
Motion on the motion.
Motion on the motion. 2/3 of the 10. 2/3 of full.
16.
16 to vote, stop discussion, so that we can turn around and vote for what Randall proposed.
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody understands?
Yeah, all you're voting on is to stop discussing it. That's it right now.
A yes vote stops the discussion. It's 2/3. It doesn't require a second, does it?
No, not
It
a call.
requires a second. Okay.
God's sake.
So let's vote on stopping the discussion and going straight to the vote next.
You can put me down for a second if it has to have one.
It'll probably have to have a second.
Actually, it does need a second, but he's got a second.
I'll second.
Levis did
Second.
first.
Mr. Levis.
I need a quarter, mine ain't working.
Yes, please.
I'm trying, it just didn't work.
Okay, show us the vote. All right, so the motion to stop the discussion has passed. So now we're going to vote on the motion on the floor from Randall. Does it, I want it repeated one more time?
Take the motion.
Okay.
All right, one more time. So the motion is to balance the budget. We are taking $120,000 from the CTE, $100K from the schools, and $86,000 from the highway budget.
I don't think we can specify the lines, can we, Josh?
So I think more appropriately, what we're actually voting on is the appropriations, okay? So she's saying we can recognize $120,000 more funding from the CTE budget, right, as a income, right?
Well, combination of income and reduction of expenses.
Right, whatever it is, we have 120,000 more recognized to appropriate, and all you're amending in this is the school budget. I guess it's their general purpose school fund, because that's what he said he could cut, I think, the salary. So that would cut 100,000 from that number on this sheet, and then you would cut 86,000 from the highway fund on this sheet, and that's it. And that would balance the budget.
My motion.
Discussion.
Ready? We've already discussed.
That's not taking anything away, 100,000, no jobs or nothing like that.
Discussion's over.
100,000 and we should be able to, that's recurring,
The discussion is over, Chair.
and that'll give us some time to.
Call for the vote.
It just takes 13, by the way.
All right, Chloe, show us. Okay, so the motion has passed. Without raising taxes, thank you to the school system, to the highway department, and for the recognition by the finance department and the mayor on what we can do at workforce development. Thank you for making it happen. Several new commissioners know in our audience tonight, this is something that'll have to be addressed in the future because these are recurring costs. So keep that in mind. We are on 14F on our agenda.
Okay, so this is a resolution to fix the tax levy in Carter County for fiscal year July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2023. This is the current tax rate 203 total that will fund all the appropriations you just approved.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Third.
We've got a motion to approve by Aaron Frazier, second by Travis Hill.
Third by me.
Any discussion? Tax rate set at 203. All right, let's vote on it.
Excuse me.
Revealed. Motion passes. Tax rate is set. All right, item number 15 is for Ms. Carolyn Watson in Finance to review with us quickly the debt management policy and the annual cash flow forecast.
There are no changes to the debt management policy. It's the same one that you've had in previous years. We've not made any adjustments to it. However, we are asked to review that as part of the requirements for the 3-star grant.
Motion to approve.
All right, motion to approve by Randall Jenkins, second by Mark Blevins. Any discussion, questions for Carolyn, anything? Okay, let's vote.
Give me a quarter, they work. Can always use.
I think I said Travis, didn't I? Who did I?
Yes.
Randall and Travis, or Aaron and Travis? Who
That was
was
the
it?
last one. That was tax levy.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Randall and somebody else. Mark Blevins.
Yes, that's right. Randall and Mark Blevins. Sorry about that. Show us the vote. All right, so the motion passes so that we can still be eligible for the 3-star grant. Okay.
The cash flow that you have before you will need to be adjusted based on the changes we just made. So just keep that in mind.
Essentially, we just need to ask if there's any questions about the cash flow forecast. It doesn't have to be approved. It just has to be documented that we reviewed it with the commission on the agenda, and they had the opportunity to ask any questions about that. So just the review of it on the agenda, what's needed to certify the 3-star grant.
Okay, great. So we're on committee reports and budget committee, is that first?
Yeah, thanks. First off, my apologies. I was not able to attend the budget committee meeting this week. I had very close contact with COVID, had all the symptoms, tested negative, but it would be best if I did not show up for that meeting. So if I have to lean on some other people for some information on this, I do apologize, but reviewed as best I can, and hopefully here we go. First up is a motion to appropriate $10,000 to fund the DAV Chapter 39 Veterans Honor Guard, formerly the Carter County Honor Guard. Funding to come from the funds reserved in the prior fiscal year, but we're under the county general unassigned fund balance, $101,039,000. Funding to come from the unassigned fund balance.
Second.
A motion by Willie Campbell, second by Randall Jenkins. Any questions? All right, let's vote. You got two that stepped out. Can you? Except for this one vote.
Wait, Blenders.
Mark Blevins.
Hey, Jerry. Am I too? So how's everybody's week been?
Okay, so let's reveal this vote.
It's early.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Duh. I apologize. Okay, so that motion is passed. Continue, Aaron.
All right, motion to appropriate $87,292 for the demolition of 2 county buildings, the planning office and the former probation office, funded to come from reserve account 101Q345850001 with $84,792 appropriated to 101-51-800-799 capital projects and $2,500 appropriated to 101-518-00-308 Consultants.
So the motion is being made by Aaron Frazier, second by Layla Ward. Any questions?
You have two questions. I've seen some questions on social media. Is there any historical significance of that, any of those buildings?
Negative.
And have we done any major renovations to the probation office?
Thankfully, no.
All right, so we can vote on this now, I believe.
Thank you, guys. Number 3 is a motion to authorize proceeds from the sale of various maintenance department non-capital equipment items be placed in the maintenance department budget line 101-51-800-335 maintenance for fiscal year 2022-2023 in the month it was received.
Second.
What was the total on that?
Per item, so they're being sold.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is in advance of them actually being sold, so we have a place to appropriate the funds to.
Any questions? Mr. Von Cannon?
It's not a question, it's that this is equipment out of the workforce buildings. Is that correct?
Yes.
When is the highway department gonna have their yard sale? And when is the Department of Education going to have theirs? They've got several $1,000s sitting there.
Charlie, we're waiting on to get the equipment. We've got 2 trucks in today. We've got 10 trucks coming in eventually. And when we get those, most of them in, then we will come to the commission and present what we want to sell.
We'll take yours off and put it in the landfill. Landfill, when are you gonna get rid of your junk?
You'll use our junk.
Half of it's caught on fire.
As far as the equipment left over from the school department, if you can figure out how to receive the funds back in, that would be a miracle in and of itself, because each individual piece of equipment has to be received into the individual title that it is, and it's a nightmare.
Sure, second discussion.
I'll second.
Second, but Travis raised his hand for the second, unless you were raising your hand for a question or
I
more.
think Mark said it first, but I'll second it.
Any other comments or discussion? Let's vote. The motion passes.
Here we go.
Motion passes, all right.
Yes, sir.
Don't shoot the messenger. Motion to approve a bonus of $4,000 per eligible county employee and retiree and associated payrolls taxes, including a gross upfront social security taxes with funding to come from the ARP Fund number 127, with a total expense of approximately $1,183,888.
To approve. We have a motion by Robin McCamey. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second by Nancy Brown. We are in discussion.
What projects did they cut off through this? Where are we sitting at with the seed with that money?
That has not been determined. This was singled out to bring before you tonight. Dr. Acuff.
Madam Chair, thank you. I think everybody in the commission knows that Health and Welfare had the first look at all the projects, and we actually prioritized them and sent them to financial management. When we reviewed the list and when we assigned the funds, it was unanimous that county employees should receive $4,000 and we would pay the FICA or whatever so that they realize that's. ARP is a moving target, lots of moving gears. At financial management this past week and at the utility meeting several months ago now, Ken Ray, First Tennessee Development District, was there. And if you don't know the action that they have taken, the first request from the TDEC ARP funding from our utilities was $14.3 million. The revised asks, they did the revised ask because they felt that they'd like to spread the TDEC ARP funding over many utility districts. We certainly can't stand, as you all approved tonight, at $7.6 million. We approved that resolution. There are still projects out there like the Laurels project. We have no funding. The question to Mr. Ray at the time of the meeting at Financial Management was how long would it take for a grant to be written for those households in the Laurels, and how and when could we possibly expect that funding? That funding was out more than 2 years, or at least 2 years, probably more, because you can only have one TDEC grant out there per county per year. We really need to think about this. When the Health and Welfare Committee put together their priorities in terms of how do you make the list, one of the first priority from our committee was that we help the most people in the county. Travis Hill said from the floor of the commission, as well as it was mentioned by Daniel McIntyre, that we should be doing infrastructure with these dollars. And if we've got folks that don't have safe water to drink, then we need to really rethink where we are and how we're spending this money. I think our employees certainly deserve the bonus out of these monies. I just think this is a little premature until we know what the ARP funding comes out to be. Commissioner Johnson and I mentioned it at Financial Management last week. What if one of these utilities comes to us and say, well, we can't get any more money out of TDEC. Would the county let us have some of their ARP funding so we can complete this project and we can provide safe, sure water to our community? So that reason I can't support this request. I think this is too premature. Yes, I agree, our county employees need a bonus. We just gave them a raise, thank goodness. But I think we need to be hesitant about spending any more ARP funding until we know the bottom line. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, Mark Tester.
I would echo Mr. Acuff's comments there that I think we need a better list of where the money's to be spent. And I am perfectly fine with giving the employees a bonus at some manner of time. But according to this list that was handed out in Financial Management, the radio communications project was cut from out of the ARP money from 3.7 million to 1.5 million. And I asked, well, where are you going to pay for the communications? And the comment was made, we'll have to get a bond. That's, in my eyes, that is totally unacceptable, because you have free money here that you're able to pay for it, and you're going out and get a bond and pay anywhere from 3 to 6% on it over the next 10 years, 5 years, whatever. That's going to, we need to look down the road, because this is going, if we do this, this is going to cause a tax rate increase, a tax increase on our citizens. There's no way around it. So my eyes, we need to, personally, I feel like we need to send this back and get a better venue and make it better to where we have a better idea of where this money is going to be spent before we go spending any more of it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Ms. Collins?
One, two comments or questions. One, does this include part-time? Are they getting the same exact amount? Okay, and second, there was a gentleman that came up and spoke under the impression that the teachers were gonna get this and school employees. They are not getting any of this.
No.
This is
The
just,
school system
I'm
is.
sure that he understood that, and everyone else does, that the bus driver, teachers, no one in the school system will be getting any part of this bonus.
Correct. If I may, Madam Chair and Director Watson, if I'm not mistaken, if we went that route, that would completely eradicate all ARP funding.
Well, I just want to make sure everyone understands, because there's a lot of people out there that are thinking differently.
These funds were county funds, the school system, that's their funds, so they had a different pot of money to work with.
Highway, where's the rest of it?
Charles, did you have your hand up? Nancy?
I guess I stand for the other side because literally I feel like our employees deserves every penny of this. It was put forth for this. And literally, I mean, I stand firm in what I mean, that literally I have been questioned on this. I have 2 kids that works for the county and I know they work very hard. I have stood here as a commissioner for years and I have done for the constituents over employees. I've done for everything that I've been asked to do. I got out and done my research. I have asked employers, what do you think about this? I've been told that your employees are your backbone. And right now you cannot find good employees. And I think this is one opportunity we've got to give to our employees, and we need to do it and then go back and to the board and do what we have to do and keep fighting for this. But our employees deserves this. And I'm asking each and every one of you, dig deep in your heart. This is one opportunity Yunus has got, and these families really need it at this point in time. They really do.
Madam Chair, if I may. We're up against a multifold problem when it comes to budget in the county. And this is no offense to Mr. Carpenter, he's just got into the situation. We've not performed maintenance of effort on the school system in close to 16 years. So at this point, we're funding the schools over and above what BEP funding would be at around $3.2 million, if I'm not incorrect. So that's where the money that we could have been taking and providing raises over these years have gone. And this is something that I think we've really just discovered over the time period. Yeah, I do agree that they completely deserve a raise or a bonus. Whenever we were going into this in the budget cycle, one of the things that we were considering doing is not giving a raise and providing a significantly larger bonus from the ARP funding to fund that. Since we're giving a raise, we might need to readdress that as well. So to even it out to where it needs to be more in line to where we're taking and being responsible for the infrastructure in our county, which is older than dirt at this point. In many cases, I mean, we have water systems 60, 70% lost. We've got infrastructure that's coming with broadband and different things like that. But we've got money, and it's not a knock on the education system because I think they've done a great job, but we've got money put in the wrong places that over time are going to have to be corrected to get things back moving in a solid direction. Most counties generally have been filing maintenance of effort every 2 years. Every 3 years, somewhere in that range. We've got 14 years. We're funding in a level for 6,600 students, and we have around 42 to 4,400 students. 4,400. So, well, depending on how it's counted. So there's some creative accounting in there, I think. But those are the things that have got us out of balance. So we can't fix it all at once. Well, technically we could, but I don't think anybody wants to do that. Over the next 3 to 4 years, this is going to be something that we're going to have to address and work towards getting fixed to make sure that county employees get compensated appropriately, because by my initial guesstimations, they're about 15 to 20% lower than the surrounding counties in many cases. And I don't think, but none of us want to throw out a 25-cent tax increase to pay for that change, because that just essentially eats up every bit of the raise we just gave those guys in many cases. So it's not just as simple as throw money at the problem, it'll go away. We've got some endemic problems in the budget overall, which is why I was, the school system, and we've now approved them to go $970,000 into their unassigned fund balance as a recurring cost. But they're already overfunded by 3.2 million. So we've essentially given that away, and being able to fix this is a long-term thing. So it doesn't matter to me which way this particular vote goes, but we've got some endemic problems in the budget that are going to have to be addressed. Otherwise, it's going to be Katie bar the door. You're going to have to raise taxes. I'll never vote to raise taxes. There's just no feasible reason for it, because when you're looking at these budgets, in many cases, there's a lot of fluff in different places that can be taken care of. So I don't know. It's a devil in the deep blue sea.
Okay, Isaiah Grindstaff.
Aaron, I agree with you. The only problem is, it's for 8 years. We've said exactly the same thing. Next year will be better.
Next year will be better.
8 years. I've been here. Next year will be better. And
optimism.
For several years, we rolled in 1.1, 1.3, $1.5 million in fund balance at the end of every year for 3 or 4 years in a row. But we couldn't afford to give a raise. This year, we did give a $2,000 raise, and that's good. I'm not knocking that. That's 7.5%, 6.5% for your $20,000 to $25,000-ish range, $26,000 range. So that's pretty good. But I have a problem with the fact that we keep saying that we're going to fix it, and we never fix it. So I don't agree that if we would have, sorry, Brandon, you just get to, let's go around. I don't agree that if we would, even if we'd have took that money tonight, I don't agree that we would have given it for raises. We would have found somewhere else to put it. We always do. During COVID, we said, all the office holders came and said, no, we're not going to ask for a raise. We understand it's going to be difficult. Don't know what's going to happen. Budget committee said, yeah, no problem. Full commission said, yeah, no problem. This is July. Things will be different. In December, things were different in December. Brad Burke sat up there and said, I've never seen revenues come in any higher than they have this past 6 months. And they continue to come in high. And we as a commission still failed to do something for the employees. Right now, you can go to Washington County Sheriff's Office and start out making $17.81 an hour as a corrections officer. We pay $12.52 plus a $2,000 bonus or a $2,000 raise.
So that's what, almost 30%? It's like 25.
Sullivan County's $18. I lost track of what Cookout's paying. I don't know. I can't speak for the highway department. I can't speak for, I know that they make as much or less than what we do. But I mean, I just can't sit and say that, well, next year it's going to be better, because I've heard that for 8 years, and I can't tell you that it's going to be better. I can't tell you it's going to be any worse. I just don't know. We talk about infrastructure, and I agree, radios are very, very important. We need radio to be able to do some of the jobs in the county. Water is extremely important. Food services, broadband, things of that nature, all that's very important. But your employees are some of the most important infrastructure that a county has. And we have failed for 12 years to take care of them. So I'm done.
Mark Levins.
I come in here tonight with all intention to vote against this $4,000. But when I sit here, not again on schools, I guess he get more out. And they move money from one department and another department when we could have voted the maintenance of effort on them and solved that problem right there. But they didn't do that. So, Mister, I promise you I'll change my mind. If they can't do that, I'm going to support it.
Gary Bailey.
Guys, we all know the schools, they got things to work out, but I'd like to clear up something. They do have healthy fund balance because we've asked them to pay for the schools themselves. So if they want to spend the money or put it back, then we have to pay for it. Because ultimately, it's either they pay for it or we pay for it. So they've been asked to keep their fund balance up over the years. Over the years, we've asked them to keep it up so they could pay for the things themselves without coming and asking us.
There's also the 177 fund.
I understand, that's a total another topic. But, going back to something on the COVID workers. When this happened, I know the sheriff department had to work all the time. I'm with those guys. Landfill did and everything else, but I'd like to clear out and at least be recognized. Because there's somebody else in here. Ms. Collins helped do it. I helped do it. The teachers, yes, some of them may have been sent home. I understand and taught from home and everything. But there's about 30 to 40 of them cooks that cooked every day and made meals every day. To about 20 or 30 bus drivers that come and got it and gave it out. And I think there's a lady sitting back there that picked up the meals and took them and delivered them. You know, I know we sit here and say, okay, the schools had their own money. They did. But I remember somebody telling them here and there of, well, they can't give that bonus out to those employees. What were they supposed to do? I don't know who made the guidelines. I don't know how it went. But it's just gonna be hard to explain how we give it to the county and we leave some of those people out. I'm not asking for the teachers. Yes, I work. I'm not asking for me. But I know Ms. Collins was there. I know there was 5 or 6 teachers there, but I know there was 30 or 40 some cooks and bus drivers and volunteers that took those meals out. So they work too. So, I mean, it's a mess. How you fix it, I don't know. But
Exactly.
all I'm saying is it seems like every few months we pick somebody to pick on. A few months ago, it was the sheriff's department. Seems to be the schools right now. We've all got problems. And it's going. So I guess now we're picking on the highway since Roger's sitting back here tonight. But I mean, let's just be honest. We've all got problems. We're trying to do the best we can. But I think the schools need to be realized in this. You know, there might have been some teachers teach from home and, you know, they send them, but there was some cooks and some bus drivers that what?
Travis Hill.
I disagree with what Mr. Grindstaff said earlier. I think this commission has worked harder for the employees in my 4 years. I can't speak for the other commissions. First year, we give 3.5% raise. Second year was COVID. Nobody knew what was going to happen. We ended up getting $1,000 working through COVID, Christmas bonus. Last year, 4% Christmas bonus. This year, basically, he said 7.5% raise. We've made better health insurance. We're putting in HSAs. I think we've done a lot in 4 years.
Raised HSAs to water.
But you didn't have it to begin with.
We reduced it twice after promising all the employees in a full commission meeting and voting on it that you would never touch those funds.
How many raises did y'all give your first 4 years, Isaiah?
In my first 4 years?
Every year.
My first 4 years, no.
We've given
Like I said,
raises
it's-
every year I've been here, and I'm on my 8th year. Prior to that, there was no raises for 8 years.
I mean, I think we've made giant steps, in my opinion. It ain't where they need to be, I agree. But almost 15% raises, that's pretty good.
But now, just to defend that, me and Isaiah and a few others that was in that first 4 years, we fought. We lost those raises, but we fought for them.
Okay, Willie Campbell.
You know, I've sat and listened, and we've shot this thing from committee to committee to committee, and it keeps coming back. And ending back up in our laps again. I don't even know who sat on the committee. But when the decision was made in the finance department, sent to the budget, sent back to the finance, sent back to the budget, and that's back to the budget again. And I'm saying, listen, you're talking about, and I agree with Mr. Hill. You got to understand, most of those county boys wasn't making probably $16,000 a year. To get them up to par, you're talking money. And as Mr. Johnson said, right now, some of them just making $20,000 a year. It's hard to make it, you know, and especially when they've got kids. And you gotta listen to this, and somebody made this statement a while ago. You're putting tax money back into this county. It'll all be spent right here in Carter County, and it'll be coming back in. And let me ask you something else, and tell you something else. It's a funny thing to me, when everything breaks down in this county, and the roads are blocked, and the snow's on the ground, they don't call the sheriff's department. They don't call the fire department. They call the highway department. We're up at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, working all night long. And we nonstop. We worked up to 17, 18 hours a day. And listen, I think, to me, you vote the way you want to. But in my heart, I'm telling you tonight, I think every one of them deserves it. Thank you.
Mr. Von Cannon?
I may as well say it, because I'm thinking it. 38 people in here are more deserving probably than any other group. The highway department works in 195-degree heat. Plus, if they're on the paving job, God knows how hot that is. That's the group that, in my opinion, no air conditioning, except in maybe the truck that Willie drives, but anyway. Problem, if you're rating it on, but I don't know if we could break out people out of the 286. That doesn't sound like something that the counselor would agree on.
No, I'll speak for Josh on this one. The one that wouldn't be a fair distribution. If we're doing something like that, it generally has to be across the board when we're doing that. But just for the same thing, for the same case that you're making for the highway department, it could also be made for the sheriff's department because they're out getting shot at in some cases and having to deal with complete idiots. So it's across the board. It's across the board. So. And this is not really about services that they're going to be performing right now. This is about services that they have performed in the past. It's supposed to be listed as a quote unquote hazard bonus or hazard pay for hours worked during the pandemic. So let's not just get it out of scope because this is one of the legal options that we do have for doing it, for funding it. We can't just throw it back into fund balance and say, oh, hey, that was for hazard pay. We actually have to pay it out directly based on that. So, and there's a whole list of things that they have to do to make those qualifications for different people based on the amount of the funding. So this is one of the options that we have for spending this money is as bonuses. Just to try to be as impartial as I can in the middle.
Let me say one more thing and I'll be quiet. How many in here lives in Liberty Holler or Peters Holler? Anybody in here?
I used to.
We washed that place completely away. It was the first ones on the scene to try to help get them out. The highway department. They were blocked in, they were flooded, their houses being flooded, their kids were standing on the porch, no clothes on and everything else. We went in and helped get them out. Roger was on the scene immediately. Had his own vehicle in yonder trying to get people out. You should have been there and seen some of that. It's unbelievable. Yeah. When a disaster hits and you tell these boys is going out making $16 an hour and $17 an hour, you got to understand too, if you start, I'm going to say, if you start that guy out at $18,000 a year, and you say, well, I'm going to start him out at $12.50. That's the same way the landfill ended up over here. He's got to pay half of his insurance. He's got to pay half of his retirement. You done sent that man back down to $8 or $9 an hour. That's how quick it goes back. And then they're right back where they started. And I appreciate every raise that we've ever got. I agree with Mr. Johnson on that.
Lindsay, yes.
I'm for it.
Time for a break. Time for a break.
Jerry.
That's Jerry.
Jerry, okay.
You go.
What's going on?
I'm out.
Daniel McIntyre.
Hey, how are you going to differentiate the individuals that worked
individuals that didn't work? Because there were several offices that rotated, correct?
That's what we just got through talking about. So literally, the guidelines allow up to $13 an hour over and above their normal hourly rate. So to give the employees $4,000, they would have had to work 38.5 days in a 20-month period. So if they didn't work 38.5 days in a 20-month period, they probably wasn't even here. I mean, you know, that's, everybody would meet that criteria as long as they were employed during that time.
Yeah.
They had to be employed through certain dates in order to make sure that they were qualified. So anybody that was employed after September the 12th would not be eligible because they would not have worked long enough during that time frame to have met that hours criteria.
And
That's the information you have based on payroll, correct?
And those numbers, that is taken into consideration with this calculation, correct?
That is correct.
That's, yeah, so some of the offices were, you know, rotating schedules, worked in person 2 or 3 days a week. I mean, but literally, I mean, you would have to have been, you know, pretty sparingly working over 20 months if they were employed during that entire time, not to work 38 days.
We did go through and look at these individually.
Gary Bailey.
Can we amend the motion, Tammy, to change the amount? Because we're gonna kick this can around no matter which way we go. Somebody's gonna be unhappy, others are gonna be happy, and the school's gonna be unhappy, and it just,
I think you gotta vote it down first, Gary, because it was passed by budget.
unless we do an amendment.
I don't think you can amend this bill. You gotta vote it down.
Already got a motion and a second, so unless they accept an amendment.
That's what I'm saying. If you accept the amendment,
Who wants to make a motion? I think Aaron made the motion.
Supposed to, but
It's on the screen. It's Robin,
Oh, I'm
motion,
sorry.
Nancy, second.
Robin said
I
no.
wasn't here that day.
I hate to call it, but question on the motion.
Mrs. Keller.
I'll let her speak.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
She hasn't spoken.
Am I correct that the ARP money does not have to be spent immediately? It can be spent over the next couple of years, is that correct?
Right.
And we're still trying to prioritize the infrastructure for the water departments and all that? So, I mean, it doesn't have to be decided tonight if we're going to give a bonus to employees that work during that time. Thank you.
Question to county attorney. If we do vote it down and it does come back up again later, it would have to pass with a 2/3 majority, or
If it was the exact same motion.
so we can make it $4,000?
Yeah.
Anything else? All right, let's vote. Reveal the vote. The motion has failed.
All right.
Aaron, if I may, I hate to interrupt.
You're not interrupting.
For it before we go to break, but it's been over an hour and a half since we had a break. So I'm going to call for another 10-minute break. It was Friday.
Might be a quick.
If there's no questions, we'll vote on this one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Karen Johnson. All right, it's time for any other committee reports, updates, motions that didn't make it on the agenda. Announcements from anybody?
I've got a question about after the election, the new committees. Several of them are not gonna have a chairman or a vice chairman to start the meeting off. What's the policy? You?
No, not me, yeah.
I mean, just, to ask.
I can't run the meeting. Generally, I mean, if there aren't enough members of each committee to have a quorum of this meeting.
No, I mean, like, Plainfield.
The chair is rotating off.
Vice chairman are not gonna be there, because there are gonna be new people in the flux.
Like I said, generally, the committees don't meet, they don't have a quorum to meet anyway in September after the election until the September commission meeting when all the committees are assigned. So unless, I mean, if there was enough members of the committee to even have a quorum to meet, one of the members is gonna have to preside over the meeting.
I just wondered how that would happen, because it's not just one committee, it's several.
Right. So most of them, I mean, it potentially won't be a quorum for any committee to meet in September. So after the committees are all signed at the commission meeting.
Chairman.
No other, I'm sorry.
I'll say that the Chamber of Commerce has spoke with Joy. They do plan to come next month and present a video. I think tourism will be there. Luke with, they'll have a presentation video for us, so we'll try to get them on.
Okay. And I called Chris Schilder today when I saw that the planning meeting for August is going to take place on a day that some people are going to be at training. So he said that we will not have a planning meeting in August. So if you all want to note that on the schedule that Gwen gave us, no planning meeting in August. Yes, Layla.
I would also like to say there is a beer board meeting on August 9th. It wasn't on the schedule, but August 9th at 5:30 in the mayor's conference room is when the beer board is scheduled.
August 9th, 5:30 in the
Conference room.
mayor's conference room.
Yeah, I believe the animal shelter has this room.
Okay. Yes, Brad?
Madam Chair, in reference to the budget committee's report number 4, which failed, I move that this item be deferred back to the financial management and to be incorporated into the final submission of all the ARP projects to come to this floor for approval. Second.
Okay, second by Von Cannon. I'm sorry. So the motion is to take budget committee motion on the agenda number 4, which is concerning the employee bonuses coming from ARP funding. He wants to send it to financial management for further discussion. Trying to come up with a complete list for expenditures. Correct, sir?
That's correct, Madam Chair.
All right, and a second by Von Cannon. All right, Ms. Nancy.
Okay. All right, well, I think we need to put another motion on the floor, literally, and quit kicking this can down the road for the simple reason we have got employees back there that I spoke to during the last break that is working 2 jobs and literally will not be here 6 months down the road. I'm telling you, yous are getting ready to make a major mistake. I'm begging yous, I want to put forth a motion for $3,500.
Can I say something?
Are you finished with your?
Yes.
Okay, does anybody else have anything to say before we vote on Brad Johnson's motion? Okay. So the motion on the floor will defer a vote on that until after Financial Management Committee meets again.
Well, until we meet and provide a complete list of recommended expenditures of the ARP funds to this commission.
Okay, Randall.
Brad, do you think you all can get that done on the next meeting so we can vote on it?
No. The thing about the ARP funds, you gotta understand, they change on a weekly basis. What was forwarded us by the health and welfare, the biggest majority of them have already brought in problems that we have to overcome. The only thing that's required for us is to see that it's done by the date of year 24. Now, we're going to try to make it as fast as possible. So to get to the grand total, to make sure we have not overspent, we're waiting on the communications contract. The amount, we have not found the dollar amount yet. And that will tell us what's going to be cut off the bottom and what we're going to recommend as a whole to this commission, including the bus.
Isaiah.
Just, I guess, a question. Back, I don't know, I can't remember, several months ago, 5, 6, 7, maybe a year, Commissioner Brown made a motion and it passed, if my recollection is correct, and it may not be, that one of the, if not the first item that should be considered is a bonus or something out of the ARP monies for the employees. And that passed. So we had spent monies prior to that. She made that motion passed. We've spent money since then. And now we're pushing it back to financial management to await to see what more monies we need to spend before we can figure out what we can do for the employees. So we violated our own motion, I don't know, 6 times, give or take. So just, if I remember that right, I may be wrong.
Madam Chair, that word considered, it's being considered in 3 different committees. Remember, written commitment, it is a consideration. And to make a combination of all your ARP funds for infrastructure projects only, the only way you can come out with a true amount is to wait till you can get the prices from each one of them. We have them all with the exception of the communication project, and then your director of communications has already stated he should be able to have it within the next 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks.
But the motion was, that motion was never superseded by 2/3 vote to revoke that motion. That's passed. So that motion was still in effect, and we've not followed that motion.
Yeah, I considered it. So that maybe
it wasn't for consideration.
That's what the wording was considered. Okay, well, I'll stand for it.
But regardless, I don't care. I was just asking a question.
Attorney Harden, you're stifling a grin.
I don't remember. It may have done that. I don't know. I don't know what the wording was.
What was the top 2 priorities that come out of health and welfare? Communications, number 1?
Broadband and communications was number 2. Fire department was number 3. Health department was number 4.
There's no other discussion. Brad Johnson, restate the motion before we vote.
Just have item number 4 of the budget committee on the bonus that was defeated, that it be deferred to the financial management to be reviewed and to also be incorporated into the final presentation of all the ARP funds.
Let's vote.
You'll have to mark off him as absent. Somehow he's.
So motion has passed by majority. So this item will be, I think is August the 1st.
That's correct.
Now they can go back.
All right, so, county attorney, we're to the point of your report, sir.
Yeah, that's all right. As always, there'll be a written report in the minutes. I'll answer anybody's questions. The only litigation update on this month is a case involving a county road or terminus point of a county road in Lincoln Drive. That case has been set for hearing in September. I don't believe there's much merit to that case. There's no damages sought. It's basically arguing over where the road stops. Other than that, my report will be included and I'll answer anybody's questions.
Okay, commissioner comment.
I'd just like to say to each and every one of you, it's due date. Because literally, I think this is gonna see a different day in this county. We've got to live with a lot of stuff.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, to adjourn, is there a second? Second by Aaron Fraser. Okay. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
I hit my elbow.
Stay one line.